We're going to kick things back over to Davos, Switzerland, where Brian Sozzi and Julie Hyman are standing by with the Mercer CEO.
Thanks so much, guys. And indeed, we are here with the CEO of Mercer, Martine Ferland. It's a giant human resources firm with 23,000 of its own employees, but of course, consults on human resources issues for many, many multiples of that. Martine, thank you so much for being here. First of all, as you know, the buzzword of this Davos is AI. And there is concern about jobs. We've been having the AI and jobs conversation with a lot of people. We've been hearing the same thing from a lot of people, which is AI is not necessarily coming for your jobs. It's going to make things easier. Do you think employees believe that?
It's interesting because we've just run a quite intensive survey of 16 countries, about 200,000 inputs, and 90% of employees surveyed said they want to use it. 60% of them are afraid that it'll take their job away. So there's a bit of a paradox or a conflicting sentiment towards AI. Will it take some jobs? Definitely. Net, I think we'll need new types of jobs to help us embed AI and maintain AI in the workplace. And also, I do believe that we will be seeing augmented power of the human beings through utilization of AI, generative AI in particular. So I think it's a short-term, medium-term, long-term thing. You might see it in the short term, it'll take time before it's at scale. In the medium term, there might be some movements, but I think in the long term, like many other technology, we'll see just a shift of what's required, but I don't think it'll take away some jobs, but it'll create some new jobs.
With the companies and leaders that you talk to, are they prepared to upskill their workforce? How much are they investing in this?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of talk, but at the same time, what's interesting, and that same survey, it's 50% of the people surveyed said they were using it at least once a week. So what's interesting with Gen AI is that it is so easy for us to understand what it does. Maybe not how it does it, but what it does. We can all think about, I'll prompt it to create a first draft of this, or do research on that, give you a summary. So we get it. And I think there's power, and we're talking to our clients about that, to your question, about lifting all boats, because it's a bit like internet. Everybody uses it today. So very, very quickly we see everybody starting to use it for different usage, like in personal, professional. And therefore, I think, first of all, we need to democratize access. We need to do it in a way that's controlling the risk of you sharing your data out. Companies very, very keen on protecting the data that they hold, but at the same time benefiting from this. So there's that. And then I think 2023 for generative AI was a year of 1,000 flowers blooming. And now what you're seeing, to your point about investment, apart from broad-based access and training, it's also, okay, we've piloted so many different things. Where do we think there's more value to us to scale some of these ideas? So we'll pick our spot a bit more in 24, and we'll scale some application, whether they are for efficiencies, for employee experience, for client experience.
A lot of people have said to us, we've had lots of technological innovation in the past where people were afraid of losing jobs. And most of that proved to be unfounded. But there have been some other types of changes. I think of trade changes, for example, NAFTA in the United States, where people did lose jobs, or at least jobs shifted around. How do we know what's going to happen?
Who knows? But it's impossible to think jobs won't be shifting around a bit. And I think we are completely underestimating the type of work that will be transformed. You started seeing lists of these jobs more than those jobs, but who knows, because this is going so fast, it's learning so fast. But one aspect that I don't think we talk enough about is we talk about labor shortage, skills shortage in a way, but it's also related to demographics. In many European countries in particular, we're seeing populations decline. We're seeing populations aging. So there's all kinds of things related to that. But if you think about generative AI, if it can accelerate some part of the job, it may be actually helpful to deliver the service that an older population will require that a younger population active in work will not be sufficient to render. So I think if you think of Gen AI and that construct of declining working population size, it's quite interesting because we need to keep growing. That's the base of our economies.
So in other words, you're saying if there is this roll-off of people retiring and the overall workforce is shrinking, that if we're making the existing workforce more productive, that will be helpful.
Exactly.
Interesting.
We also, at the same time, need to make sure the older population continues to be productive longer, because they live longer, they need to finance a longer life. But it's part of the solution, I think.
Are you in the camp that as AI spreads, it will create more inequality?
That's a danger. That's definitely a risk. So with AI, as we all say, there's the risk of data leaks, the risk of errors and falseness, but there's the risk also of who has access again. So you need to be very careful. I was having some discussion with the European Commission today, and they were looking at digitalizing the world, giving access to Europeans on Wi-Fi across everywhere, because that will be the entry point. If you don't have access to that, how can you have access to AI? So absolutely, I think there is a risk of the gap widening. It's interesting. I don't know, in the US, for example, the gap that had been widening for 40 years has started to shrink a little bit in the last couple of years since the pandemic has kind of ended. So we'll need to be very watchful of any effect that way in access.
Martine Ferland, CEO of Mercer. Thank you so much. Good to see you again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.